So that's transformative justice. Now, we call our model integral transformative justice because we feel it's critical to work to do all the things I've been talking about in a holistic way, at the level of body, mind, emotion, and spirit, at the individual level and the collective level. So we use a number of integral models. We use Ken Wilber's model, which talks about the 4 quadrants of life. We have the interiority of the self, the individual interior. We have the exteriority of the individual, behaviors and the human organism. And at the collective level, we have the interior level, which is culture, and the exterior level, which is systems. So you have those 4 quadrants, and then of course Wilber also talks about various levels of development, lines of development, states and traits, and these kind of things. So taking this big map approach to work on all these different levels holistically in an integrated way. In other words, not just saying, well, we'll go work over here on body, and then we'll work on mind, and then we'll work on the system. But no, finding ways to do all of this in a way that's synergistic and truly integral. So all of our programs are designed to shift what's happening at the level of the individual consciousness. Now, when we're talking about people who find themselves in trouble and people who are causing harm, what you find there is a lack of personal agency, a lack of accountability, a lack of responsibility, denial about one's own problems, often a lot of internalized shame, oppression, and trauma, self-hatred, very negative self-images, negative core beliefs. I'm not good enough. The world's a scary place. I'm not going to get my needs met. You have all this inner toxicity, and it's all fear-based and survival-based. And of course, then what kind of behaviors arise out of that, which is the upper right quadrant in Wilber's work? Of course, we're going to get fear-based behaviors, toxic behaviors, self-destructive, socially destructive behaviors, addictive behaviors, violent behaviors. That's what you get out of that kind of interior landscape. So our programs are looking at how do we change that interior landscape to bring responsibility, to cut through denial, to bring accountability, to empower people to have a greater sense of personal agency. Rather than seeing everything good and all authority is outside of themselves, how can we begin to empower ourselves, have a stronger sense of personal agency and responsibility and accountability, and then how to shift some of the negative core beliefs that have been internalized, how to heal the internalized shame and trauma which is there, how to shift beliefs like I'm not good enough into a belief that we all have basic goodness, right? Or that we're all children of God. How to shift beliefs that the world's a scary place with not enough love or land or water to go around to a sense of abundance, so that we can shift the individual consciousness from a fear-based consciousness to more of an open sense of internal confidence about life and about oneself. Out of that, we expect to get new behaviors. We expect to get more empathic behaviors, more relational behaviors. A lot of this work also comes under the rubric of emotional and social intelligence. In Daniel Goleman's model of emotional intelligence, we're talking about self-awareness, which is, of course, these things I've been speaking about, the ability to self-manage, to keep ourselves in a resource place. When we find ourselves triggered and activated in a fear-based place from which we might then do harmful actions, do we learn to recognize that, untrigger ourselves, get us out of our fight or flight response in the reptilian brain, back into our forebrain, able to then use our intelligence to interact in a way with the world and others in a way that might get our needs met better. So working on all these levels is this integral approach, body, mind, spirit, and this is what we call integral transformative justice. To really work in this fully integral way, not only is it important to work with what's happening in the interiority of an individual, and then hopefully cultivating new kinds of behaviors that are not fear-based behaviors, not survival-based behaviors, that are more relational, more emotionally and socially intelligent behaviors. We feel it's also important to work at the collective level. So how can we work with groups and communities to help those groups and communities discover new meta-values that are not fear-based? You know, when we have a collection of people and they all have a fear-based psychology, what do we get? We get scarcity model thinking. We get zero-sum thinking, where there's a limited amount of resources, and if someone else gets a bigger piece, I get a smaller piece. right? So we get competition, fear-based strategies. These become the meta values. And then what kind of systems do we get out of that? Well, we get the healthcare system we're not so crazy about. We get the education system we're not so crazy about. We get the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, and so forth. So how can we work with groups and communities to help them discover that they can actually get their needs met from a place of abundance and a place of partnership? You know, Rian Eisler, for example, has been trying to bring these partnership models into education that could really transform the way we educate and enculturate our young people into a world that is really based on a sense of confidence about life and a sense of abundance, rather than this fear-based survival thinking, which just creates competition. And of course, we can train ourselves to try to become winners, but that also means there's losers. And so again, how can we, if we're really talking about creating a healthier, more sustainable society, then I think we need to move beyond this thinking of just winners and losers. How can we all win? You know, I think we're all beginning to recognize that we're at a place on this planet Earth where we have to all win and the Earth has to win if we're going to survive as a species on this planet.